Good morning. Today is the 27th of Nisan. It's also the 18th of April. It's a wonder, yeah. It's a wonder how that works together. So we're continuing with our mimer from the Rebbe Moarash on when the Aron is named after the Jewish people, when it's named after Moshe. So we saw yesterday the tremendous innovation here that the Torah is seen like a vessel, like the Aron itself. Like the Aron itself is a vessel that contains the luchos, the tablets. And in the same way, when a person learns, he should be learning for the sake of the Torah itself, which means to bring down the infinite light into the vessel of the Torah. So it's likening the Torah itself to be like the Ark of the Covenant itself, like the Ark itself. It's a vessel that contains the infinite in the same way that the Ark contained the shattered tablets that were the act of the infinite, act of God. I said when that happens, then the Ark and the Torah is named after the person himself. And we're on page 8, a few lines down. Let's say 5 lines down. We mentioned this yesterday. We'll just recap that this is why the verse says that in the beginning the person seeks and wants the Torah of God, and then in his Torah he will engage day and night, where the idea here of his Torah, literally it's supposed to be God's Torah. But the sages explain that it means the person's Torah, because in the beginning was God's Torah, but by learning it, by engaging in it for its own sake, we bring down the infinite light of God into the Torah. And again, here we have to understand that there's a definite separation and difference between the Torah and God's infinite light, and which, by the way, doesn't mean that the Torah is not infinite. It means that it is. It still is, but you have to bring in more of the infinite light into the Torah. What that means, how can you add more? So perhaps Cantor has an explanation for us that there are different levels of infinity. שאז נקראת התורה תורתו, שהיא התורה שלו. להיות כי על ידי הלימוד לשמה ממשיכים בתורה אור אינסוף ברוך הוא שלמעלה מהתורה. By doing this, we bring down infinite light that is above the Torah into the Torah itself, ועל ידי זה נעשה עילוי בתורה יותר גבוה מכמו שהיה תחילה, שנתעלת על ידי זה בעילוי אחר. So the Torah itself is elevated to a new level. והרי העילוי נעשה על ידי הלימוד שלכן נקרא תורתו. Because this elevation in the Torah itself is a consequence, is the result of the person's learning, then the Torah is named after him. It becomes his Torah.
Doesn't remember the ways. When a person gets to 120, so they say to him, "Where's your book?" He says, "What book?" He says, "Your book on Torah and all your chidushim." So I didn't write one. He says, "But you were supposed to have written one. Where is it? Why didn't you write it?"
Very nice. Where did you see that?
I think I said it in my ways.
Put this on your lapel if you're not going to hold it.
It's very heavy.
Okay. וזהו שהארון שבו היו הלוחות מקור כל התורה. And this is what it means, that the Aron, the ark, in which the tablets of the covenant, which are the source of the entire Torah, נאמר בו, we say about it, ועשו להיות, ועשו. They shall make it. Who's they? The Jewish people. להיות כי ישראל על ידי עבודתם תורה ומצוות עושים את התורה לעלותה בעילוי אחר. Because of their actions in engaging and learning in Torah, they elevated from level to level. And the opposite, והפך על ידי היעדר עשיית המצוות, או כשעושה אותם בדרך מצוות אנשים מלומדם. We read all this, why are we reading it again? היכרות, כמו שאינו נוגע לו כלל, אז על זה נאמר ועשית שמשה הוא העושה אהרון. We read all this all the way to the end. אמנם, now we're coming to a new topic. עדיין צריך להבין למה תלו רזה לעניין קריאת עשיית הארון, אם על שם בני ישראל או על שם משה, במה שעושים רצונו של מקום. So if we go back to the initial medrash that we read, which is not medrash, it's actually in the Gemara. It's in 2 places. the very, very beginning, on page 4. Ve'amur Azal, right? The sages said, כתוב אחד אומר ועשה ידך ארון עץ, כתוב אחד אומר ועשו ארון עצי שתים. One verse says, you, Moses, shall make yourself a wooden ark. And another verse says, and they shall make an ark made of acacia woods. How could we reconcile these two statements? Is it Moses making it, or is it the Jewish people making it? So the Gemara answered, the Talmud answered, כאן בזמן שישראל עושים רצונו של מקום, וכאן בזמן שאין ישראל עושים רצונו של מקום. So here is when the Jewish people follow God's will, and this is when they don't follow God's will. What we've been saying until now, his answer until now has been that this depends on learning Torah. It's not exactly the same thing as saying that you're performing God's will. Until now, it seemed like it's the investment that you make in Torah. Now he wants to reconcile this with what the sages said in this passage in Talmud, that it has to do with performing God's will and not learning Torah. It's not exactly the same thing.
Mitzvahs.
Could be. Let's see. So, to understand this, העניין יובן, third line, בעניין ההפרש בין פרשה ראשונה לקריאת שמע לפרשה שנייה. We can understand this by looking at the difference between the first paragraph of Shema and the second paragraph.
First one's in the singular, the second one's in the
There's many differences, right? In any case, let's see what he says. שאמרו רז"ל שפרשה ראשונה היא בחינת עושין רצונו של מקום. The sages said that the first paragraph, ואהבת את השם אלוקיך אשר love Hashem, God with all of your לבבך, with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might, and so on, and everything until וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך וישעריך, you should write it on the doorposts of your houses and in your gates. That, which is from Deuteronomy 6, is when it describes the state of being when we do God's will. That's the first paragraph. ופרשה שנייה נקראת אין עושים רצונו של מקום. And the second paragraph, which is from Deuteronomy 11, והיה אם שמעתי שמוע והיה אם שמע,
אם שמע תשמעו.
אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם לאהבת השם לכם ועבדו בכל לבכם ובכל נפשכם ונתתי את ארצכם בעיתו. If you follow my rules, I will give you rain in its time, and so on and so forth. And if not, it describes what happens if you don't. But the whole situation here of if you do, if you don't, he says that is only when you don't do God's will. And when you don't follow God's will. So that's the second paragraph. That's in Deuteronomy 11. שלכאורה יפלא. הלא בפרשה שנייה נאמר, והיה אם שמע תשמעו אל מצוותיי. But it began by saying, if you follow my commandments, how can you call that not doing God's will? You're following my commandments. Because later on it says, Ve'im lo, and if you don't. But in the beginning it starts with if you do. So how can you call this whole paragraph in Deuteronomy 11 as describing the state of not doing God's will? So how do we reconcile this? אך העניין הוא שבפרשה הראשונה נאמר בכל מאודיך. בפרשה השנייה לא נאמר בכל מאודיך. What does it say? ואהבת את השם אלוקיך. In the first paragraph, you should love Hashem your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might. But in the second paragraph, it doesn't say with all your might. It just says, ואהבתם את השם אלוקיכם בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם, ונתתים את ארצכם בעיתו. It just says, you shall love God with all of your heart and with all of your souls. It doesn't mention with all of your might. בכל מאודיך. And again, this is a poor translation. בכל מאודיך. Rav Steinsaltz used to say, it's like saying, with all of your more. And me'odecha is like with all of your more. There's many attempts to translate this, but what it means is going beyond the letter of the law. So let's see this. B'inyan b'chol me'odecha, what is these words, b'chol me'odecha, which we've been translating with all of your might, with all of your more, however we translate it. ידוע שהוא בחינת ביטול הרצון שלמעלה משכל המושג. What it refers to get to that state, everybody knows this is what we call Mesiras Nefesh. This is what we call going beyond our rational mind and doing something without cause, without reason, without an explanation. It's going and doing something because I am completely connected to it. Whenever we want to say the word more, me'od, we say tova ha'aretz me'od me'od. The land is very, very good. The very is me'od. So when we use the word me'od in the Torah, it's always to signify that we're going beyond the regular description of the adjective. So if I say the land is very, very good, or me'od me'od avesh fal ruach, you should be very, very lowly in nature. So lowly is an adjective. Good is an adjective. And when I add the word very, me'od, what I'm really doing is I'm going beyond the limits of the description. Going beyond the limits of the description is like breaking the barrier. It's going beyond. And so that's what the word me'od is serving here. So me'od romez shu bli gvul, meaning it's going beyond the boundary without limit. That's what the word me'od, me'odecha, your might, your more, or your very, is alluding to. פירוש למעלה מהגבלת הכלי אשר תוכל לשאת, כי אם לצאת מכלי הגבלתו לגמרי. So it means that I'm going beyond what the vessel can contain. The vessel can be my thoughts, my heart, my soul, everything, whatever vessel I'm talking about. So when I go beyond it, then it's called very, then it's called me'odecha. And that only appears in the first paragraph of the Shema. It doesn't appear in the second paragraph. שזהו עניין מאמר הזה, למה קדמה שמה לבעיה עם שמוע? כדי שיקבלו עליהם עול מלכות שמיים תחילה, ואחר כך יקבל עליו עול מצוות. And that's why the sages say in the Gemara that why did they order the paragraphs in this order? So it would seem that they ordered the paragraphs according to how they appear in Deuteronomy, chapter 6, chapter 11. But we see that it didn't have to be that way. There's many reasons to say that it could have been the opposite. In any case, what does the order signify? That first a person should accept on himself the yoke of heaven, Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, and that you do in Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which itself is already going beyond the limits of rational mind, because how can you claim that God is one when the rational mind, when it encounters the world, sees the plurality of forces, the plurality of entities, and so on? How can you say that all this is one? So for that, I have to go beyond the mind. I have to go beyond my rational understanding. So a person should first accept the yoke of heaven. The yoke of heaven doesn't mean just to say I'm going to do the mitzvahs. It doesn't mean I'm going to become a Baal Tshuva. That's all very nice and good. Now that it's something we should look down on. It's a very great thing. But really what it means is, in terms of faith, that a person is willing to believe that all is one. That is really where it's at. And that's called Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. ואחר כך יקבל עליו עול מצוות. And only after that can he take upon himself the yoke of the commandments. So there's two different things. Because we see that that was how the order of Abraham was. First, he accepted the yoke of heaven. He realized that all is one. He realized that there was one God in the world. And that one God is everything. And beyond everything at the same time. He's paradoxical. And only then was he commanded. Only then did God start giving him commands. זהו שעניין הקבלת העול, קבלת העול מלכות שמיים, זהו כעניין הקדמת נעשה לנשמע. And later on, when the Jews received the Torah, they followed the same suit. They said, first we will do, and then we will hear. Meaning, first of all, we accept upon ourselves. We will do is not the yoke of heaven. It's not the yoke of mitzvot. It's not the yoke of the commandments yet, because they haven't heard them yet. So we will do here is in the sense of we will make ourselves under the yoke of heaven. And then nishma, and then we'll hear what the mitzvos are, what the commandments are. שעניין ביטול דנעשה, מורה שנעשה כל מה שתצווה אלינו. לא שמקבלים על עצמם מחמת כי כבר שמעו הציוויים שברכותם לשאת, אלא כל מה שתצווה עלינו לעשות נעשה, והדר, ואחר כך נשמע איך לעשות. This is the same idea. First of all, I accept upon myself the yoke of heaven. Whatever you tell me to do, I will do. I believe that you're one and everything, and I want to serve you, first of all. And then, only then do I hear what the particular commandments are. So again, in receiving the Torah, they follow the same order, the same pattern. First, accept the yoke of heaven, which means accept the general principle that God is one and He's the master of the universe, and whatever He says is worth and proper to follow. And only then do you take upon yourself the yoke of the commandments after you've heard them. So that's the general order, and that's why they put the first paragraph of Shema first, and then the second paragraph. ממילא מובן, גם כן, שאמרו אחר כך נשמע, היינו שנשמע הדבר בפרטיות מה שצריך לעשות. מובן כי קודם ששמעו הציווי מה לעשות, אינם יודעים כלל מה לעשות. ומהו שאמרו נעשה, היינו הביטול בכלל לאור אינסוף בעל הרצון, מקור כל הרצונות. And now he explains why this is called Osin Retzono Shel Makom, why this is called doing the will of heaven. Because when I make myself available to the yoke of heaven, what I'm really saying is, I am first of all nullifying myself before the master of the will. I don't even know what he wants yet. I don't know what particular will he's going to have. He hasn't.
But whatever you say, I will do.
Yeah, it's first of all whatever you are. You're the master of the will here. Whatever will you now describe to me, I'm willing to take it upon myself. That's accepting the yoke of heaven, which is really like connecting with the master of the will. Baal HaRatzon. This is a big deal in Chasidus. Before Chasidus, there was an understanding. We talked, we didn't talk about it here. I don't remember where we talked about it. I talked about it on last Shabbos. Not Shabbos and Varchim, the one that was in the middle of Pesach. Shabbos Pesach. We learned the mimer from the Alter Rebbe. And in this mimer, he explained, we only have a couple minutes to say it, what we call, it was a mimer that was about what we call the theory of, or the theory of the development of consciousness according to Hasidus. And the big issue is what develops the connection to God? Because God is unknowable. So how can you have consciousness of something that's unknowable? So the classic answer is you know through the Torah. The Torah is the go-between. It's the intermediary that allows what is unknowable to become knowable at some level. But what do I know from Him? Only His will. In the Torah, He told me His will. So the Torah gives me the will, the expression of what God wants. But I don't have a direct connection with Him. And without Torah, I won't have any connection. But there's something beyond that. That's what Chasidus claims. That the Torah is not the only way to form a connection with God. You can also form a connection directly. And that's what he's saying here, the yoke of heaven. The yoke of heaven is to connect to the master, the one who has the will. Not the will, which is the Torah. First of all, who has the will. So now we're setting up to understand what is higher than the Torah. And we'll talk about that some more tomorrow.
Bezrat Hashem.